The Capitol attending physician on Thursday said Senate Minority Leader Mitch McConnell is medically clear to continue with his schedule as planned after he appeared to freeze up while taking questions from reporters Wednesday. Brian Monahan, the attending physician, said he consulted with McConnell and conferred with the GOP leader's neurology team. He added that occasional lightheadedness, which a McConnell spokesperson said the senator experienced following Wednesday's episode, is not uncommon in concussion recovery and can be expected as a result of dehydration. McConnell, 81, suffered a concussion and rib fracture in March after falling at a private dinner in Washington, D.C. He was hospitalized and spent time at an inpatient rehabilitation facility before returning home then to the Capitol for work in April. I have consulted with Leader McConnell and conferred with his neurology team after evaluating yesterday's incident. I have informed Leader McConnell that he is medically cleared to continue with his schedule as planned. Occasional lightheadedness is not uncommon in concussion recovery and can also be experienced as a result of dehydration, Monahan said in a statement. During a press gaggle in Covington, Kentucky on Wednesday, McConnell appeared to freeze for roughly 30 seconds while fielding questions from reporters. It was the second time in just over a month the GOP leader froze up while answering questions from reporters in front of a camera. The first episode was during his weekly press conference in the Capitol in July. On Wednesday, a reporter in Kentucky asked McConnell for his thoughts about running for re-election in 2026, which the GOP leader needed the reporter to repeat twice. McConnell then responded, that's before freezing and looking ahead for almost 30 seconds. Following the bout of unresponsiveness, McConnell answered two more questions, which his aides had to repeat before walking away from the podium and exiting the room. The press gaggle took place after McConnell spoke for roughly 20 minutes, according to NBC News. After the incident, a McConnell spokesman said the GOP leader felt momentarily lightheaded and paused during his press conference today, similar to what his office said after the first freeze-up episode. An aide for the Kentucky Republican added on Wednesday that the senator feels fine, but noted as a prudential measure, the leader will be consulting a physician prior to his next event. Prudential. Later on Wednesday, McConnell was photographed with Representative Jim Banks, who is running for Senate in Indiana. President Biden on Thursday said he spoke to McConnell, who he called a friend, earlier that day, and that the GOP leader was his old self on the telephone. The president said he does not have any concerns about the senator's ability to do his job. McConnell also spoke with members of his leadership team on Wednesday, including Senate Republican Whip John Thune, Senate GOP Conference Vice Chair Shelley Moore Capito, and Senator Steve Daines, the chairman of the National Republican Senatorial Committee, according to spokespeople for the three. The Thune spokesperson said McConnell sounded like his usual self and was in good spirits. Capito's aide said the senator said the leader sounded fine and she looks forward to seeing him when the Senate is back on Tuesday. And the Daines spokesperson said the NRSC chair was glad to hear the leader sounds like himself and is feeling fine. McConnell's two freeze-ups have raised questions about the longtime GOP leader's political future. The Kentucky Republican has led the GOP conference for 16 years. And in January, he surpassed the late Senator Mike Mansfield, Democrat of Montana, as the longest-serving Senate leader in history. But in the wake of his two freeze-ups, the fall in March and two other falls in Finland and Washington, D.C. this year, questions are swirling regarding McConnell's tenure as leader of the Senate GOP conference. So a lot of people have been using this incident to say that we need term limits and age limits and blah, 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 all the usual little hand-wringing they do when we talk about the very old people that are in Congress. But I've said this before. I believe term limits should be decided by the voters. And this really has only partially something to do with age. And what I mean by that is, just because someone's 81, it doesn't mean that they're not mentally acute. I mean, for example, I don't like him at all, but Trump is just, 4 years younger, and no one would say, oh, he froze up and we couldn't understand what he was saying, and it was like he was confused. No one would claim that. Same thing with Sanders. Really, it's McConnell, and that's honestly just been a thing of this year, not before now. But it's McConnell, Biden, and Feinstein that are the ones that people are saying have like the, are they're like wondering about their mental acuities. But it's not really a thing of, oh, this person is too old to be in Congress or whatever. It's more so having to do with being concerned that they're not able to do their job because of a condition that may be a factor from age, but isn't something that you're just going to have happen to you because you're 80 something. Um, and a lot of this also has to do with the fact that power is everything. I mean, I remember watching the last Kentucky senatorial debate, the one that McConnell had with, I believe that was McGarth, however you say her name, the lady that he ran against for his last Senate reelection. And he pointed out that, if she were to beat him and become a freshman senator, Kentucky's not going to have the same political clout that it does with him as the majority leader. So that, no doubt in my mind, played a very significant role in getting him reelected, even if, he's one of the least popular senators nationwide. The fact that he has been the Republican leader for as long as he has is something that his state has a lot of people in it that appreciates, which is why he and the state are probably not so inclined to just get rid of him that easily. But I gotta tell you, it's interesting because I never pegged him as one of the ones that had some kind of, like, yeah, you have falls, whatever, but I didn't expect the second freeze up, to occur. I thought the first one was just like a fluke. Sometimes there's like stuff going on in people's minds. But now we've had the second one. You're having, Representative, everyone's favorite Georgia icon, Marjorie Taylor Greene, say he needs to step aside, which she knows he's not going to do. But it's interesting how there's a real narrative push against older people. Like we were talking about Haley having her mental competency test, that I'm just not really a fan of. I think there are some who should leave, like Feinstein, because we've established her staffers at this point are the ones doing her job. But I'm just kind of sad by the fact that you hit this magic number, and maybe there's like, because with McConnell, it's really just been 2 incidents where he had trouble responding, not, oh, he didn't know where he was or whatever. His mind seems to be, it seems to have been, up until this year, entirely sharp. But it's just sad that everyone is turning this into an age issue, and it really just has to do with the fitness of politicians. Like, I'm not a fan of a lot of these Democrats, but when people were bringing up Fetterman and his depression, how he hadn't been in the Senate for a while, I think those are legitimate things to be concerned about, that again have to do with the health of the person, less so brought on by their age. But a lot of this other stuff is just, I don't like him, so get rid of him. That's really what it comes down to. Two freeze ups, and now there's a push of, okay, this person's done, get somebody else. And it's like, I just find these calls to be so interesting because you have to remember, he's halfway through his Senate term. He's still able to, move around, do all the stuff he was able to do before. Yeah, he's got the 2 freeze ups, but the likelihood of him resigning, either from being the Republican leader or just from his Senate seat altogether before his term is up, I think is extremely low, especially when it doesn't appear that he's in any real physical ailing health. So what do I think he's going to try to get another term? Maybe. I don't know. I lean towards yes, because I think as long as these people can walk, they'll try to stay in office forever. But I just don't think that the calls to get rid of him are really founded in any actual concern for somebody's health. And look, I don't like him either, but I'm not going to sit here and pretend that he's, just falling apart. Now, if this happens again and again and again and again, then, yeah, people should call. But let's be honest, we know that politicians, their number one thing is looking out for each other. And any concerns about, hey, this person is not able to do their job anymore is just going to get, called as something else. You're being a partisan hack if you're a liberal or Democrat or progressive or whatever that says McConnell should step down or step aside. And then you're called sexist if you say that Feinstein should get out of there. I mean, this is just what happens. So we can't have an honest discussion, unfortunately, about the declining faculties of these Congress members, which is sad because there's a lot of conversation to be had.